This is basically another part of the book. See basically few more parts. So one of the person told that is it possible basically to get the data of RDX basically from TCS basically from Infosys? Assume that basically Army Group has given the data collection to Infosys Group and eClerx, C3 and Infotech. So is it possible to get data from this whole group basically? Because TCS company basically is across the world basically. So across the world basically means that means Indian enemy group also basically can easily able to reach to these companies basically and easily able to collect the RDX data. So whenever basically in future basically if India is using that BrahMos missile or basically any of the missile basically assume that basically India have around 5 lakh missile basically. They have 5 lakh missile. So that 5 lakh missile basically is collecting some RDX data basically or any weapon data basically, and that weapon data is basically collected by these companies. So if the data of weapon basically is collected from this company basically, if that is tracked, then basically the all the missile basically which India is basically going to use for Pakistan or basically going to use for China or basically going to use for USA or basically going to use for Russia. That all missile basically. So one of the person told that is it possible basically Sunil basically to get the list of Indian enemy basically, because it might possible that some BrahMos missile or some missile basically is created from created specifically for USA basically, specifically for Russia, specifically for Thailand, specifically for Dubai, specifically for Pakistan, specifically for China. So is it possible basically? Then basically one of the person told that TCS company is there in China also. So China group basically know basically if whether basically the TCS is collecting data for our country and also basically. So it not was possible that basically the missile basically which is getting collected, data basically which is getting collected, that data basically is collected by TCS basically, and that is for which country basically, that if anybody tracks this, then basically not a single missile of India basically will get blast basically, because in future basically if any war happens basically that time basically, because this is everything na, basically if you have 1 crore rupees also basically and if you don't have the security, then basically there is no meaning of 1 crore basically, because you will die. So same way basically if you have the entire world bank also with India basically, then also there is no meaning. Why? Because the missile data basically is already leaked. So if data is basically leaked, then basically the rest of part basically everybody knows basically what are the things. But mostly basically this TCS company, Infosys company, eClerx basically are the root of the India basically, and they will never cheat India basically. Even basically USA say that basically take $1 crore, $2 crore, $100 crore, $500 crore, give the data to us basically. But then also basically they are not going to give. Why? Because these groups are TCS is Indian, Infosys is Indian, eClerx is Indian, 3i Infotech is of Indian, Capgemini is of Godrej Group, Accenture is also of Indian company. So these all are companies of Indian basically. So they basically will never do this. Why? Because they are staying in India and they will not give the data basically. If by chance basically some internal employees basically pass the data, then basically that is the problem basically. So mostly basically you can just imagine basically how dangerous the software company is doing the task basically. How dangerous the technical team basically plays connecting with the software industry basically, because they are collecting the RDX data. So RDX or missile, BrahMos missile, for example, one of the person told that how many missile basically the India have. So one of the person from software industry told that basically we have 100 missiles, and that 100 missile going to be going to load this all weapon basically, and this all weapon basically is created from these all cities, and this cities data is collected by TCS, Infosys, eClerx, 3i Infotech, Capgemini, Accenture. So you can just imagine next few days see.